July 25th, 1894, First Sino-Japanese War begins. A Meiji ruled Japan is fighting a Qing ruled China. They're fighting over this piece of land right here, Korea. Japan wants to assert its dominance. It wants to become the most powerful Asian country. And guess what? It does. Japan wins the First Sino-Japanese War and takes Korea. Fast forward to World War I. Japan is one of the Allied forces. It is capturing German-held territories, increasing manufacturing, demanding stuff from China, and its economy and population are booming. In other words, it is having the time of its life. But then came the Treaty of Versailles negotiations, and Japan felt very frustrated because it didn't get much of a say in the treaty. This frustration will be further exacerbated by the Great Depression that came around a decade later, causing a decline in the demand for Japanese goods. The combination of frustration and a rotted economy led Japan to believe the world was out to get them, causing a rise in nationalism. Japan began training young men with propaganda. Japanese schools operated like military units. Textbooks were filled with propaganda. Toy shops were full of toy soldiers, tanks, rifles, etc. Many Japanese teachers were even military officers, teaching kids about their destiny to conquer Asia. All of this was done in preparation for their future invasions, such as the Mukden incident on September 18, 1931, where an explosion destroyed a section of railway track in Mukden. The Japanese blamed Chinese nationalists for the explosion and seized the opportunity to invade Manchuria. Slowly but surely, Japan crept up more and more onto Chinese territory. July 7, 1937, Second Sino-Japanese War begins. A small Japanese force near the Marco Polo Bridge demanded entry into the Wanping fortress. The Chinese garrison there refused, and so both sides began fighting each other. This event is known as the Marco Polo Bridge incident and the beginning of the Second Sino-Japanese War. Japan escalated the conflict by sending reinforcements to northern China. The war was then extended to central China, with marine units taking the war to Shanghai in August 1937, thus leading to the Battle of Shanghai. Emperor Hirohito of Japan did not officially issue a decree declaring war on China. The Japanese government and military unwillingly escalated the conflict into a de facto war, and Central Army officials instructed not to apply the law of war. The Japanese army expected a quick victory at Shanghai, but the Chinese held out for 3 months. Chinese forces then retreated to Nanjing in November 1937. The Japanese pursued them for 200 miles, destroying everything in their path. Nanjing was the capital of China at the time. Chinese leader Chiang Kai-shek pulled the government and air force out of the city and ordered a crew of troops under a Chinese commander named Tang Shenzhi to hold Nanjing. Emperor Hirohito appointed his uncle Prince Asaka to lead the charge on Nanjing. Japanese General Iwane Matsui also took charge. Matsui believed that the capture of Nanjing would force China to surrender. He ordered the city to be destroyed. The Battle of Nanjing lasted for about 2 weeks. Tang Shenzhi initially ordered the city to be defended to the last man, but later retreated before the city was entirely surrounded by Japanese forces. After Tang fled, his troops lost the will to resist, and many began rushing up and down the Yangtze riverbank, seeking safety. Japanese forces captured Nanjing in December 1937 and looted the city. Chinese soldiers surrendered en masse. The Imperial Army viewed them as subhumans for surrendering and thus executed them. Local commanders issued orders to take no POWs or to dispose of them. 90,000 Chinese soldiers, every military-aged Chinese man, and many others in the city were killed. People were buried alive. Prisoners were used for bayonet and machine gun practice. New recruits were ordered to kill unarmed prisoners. People were forced to walk out on the ice, choked to death in the streets, hackled to death with swords, and forced to drink kerosene only to be shot afterward. Japanese soldiers poured gasoline on civilians and burned them alive. People were beheaded and contests were made out of it. Infants were impaled in front of families or thrown into boiling pots of water. Entire families were massacred. Bodies were used to fill in trenches so tanks could drive across. The gutters were filled with blood. It got so bad to the point where the Japanese soldiers had to modify their own methods of slaughter due to the rampant spread of disease from the thousands of corpses. At least 200,000 to 300,000 people were killed, which was half of Nanjing's population at the time. This is why it's known as the Nanjing Massacre. But we are not done yet, because there is another name for this massacre: the Rape of Nanking. Why is it called that, you may ask? Well, it is estimated that Japanese soldiers raped between 20,000 to 80,000 Chinese women. Rape was an immeasurably traumatic experience for women involved. It left emotional scars that lasted a lifetime. Surviving women often never spoke out about it or killed themselves out of shame. Not many Chinese women would admit that their child may have been born to a Japanese soldier, and thus there was a lot of infanticide. While all of this was happening, there were a number of foreigners in the city at the time. Together, they established the Nanking Safety Zone, a 2.5 square mile area that eventually sheltered 250,000 Chinese refugees from the Japanese military. It was maintained by 24 foreign nationals led by Jon Raab, the official Nazi Party representative in Nanking. Yes, a Nazi. Raab is one of many often credited for saving many Chinese lives during the Nanjing Massacre, and there's even a statue of him in Nanjing today. The Nanjing Massacre lasted for around 6 weeks. This event and the US Esplanade incident turned US opinion against Japan. The US seized all shipments of oil and other goods to Japan, banned them from using the Panama Canal, and stopped negotiations with Japanese diplomats. Japan's response to this was to attack Pearl Harbor. This led to the US declaring war on Japan. Fast forward a couple of years and Japan gets nuked. Twice. The war was finally over. But the trauma of the rape wasn't. Written contemporary sources documenting rape are rare due to the shame-inducing nature of the crime. Many Class B and C war criminals, including lower-level officers and soldiers, were tried by the Nanjing War Crimes Tribunal. Most of the Class A war criminals, including Matsui, were tried in Tokyo by the International Military Tribunal for the Far East, or IMTFE for short. The IMTFE found that the Nanjing Massacre was secretly ordered or willfully committed, but they weren't allowed to prosecute the top commander, Prince Asaka. The entire imperial family was granted immunity from prosecution by Douglas MacArthur. Yes, immunity. Japan did not make an all-out effort to prosecute war criminals and never paid war reparations. The Nanjing Massacre is a symbol of Japan's historical aggression against China. The Japanese Ministry of Education heavily censors the content of many school textbooks that mention the massacre. Oh, and it's not just Japan. American history classes also rarely talk about the massacre. To be honest, they also rarely talk about the Pacific theater of World War II and put all their focus on the European side of things, which includes the Holocaust. Now, don't get me wrong, the Holocaust was extremely horrendous, and if you don't feel remorse for the victims of the genocide that happened, you are not human. It absolutely belongs in the curriculum. But can we please not forget the other genocides? Either way, there is something else that I want to point out. The most commonly used Chinese term for the Nanjing Massacre is Nanjing Da Tu Sha, which literally translates to Nanjing Massacre. The most commonly used Japanese term is Nanking Jishin, which literally translates to Nanjing as incident. Japan has clearly gone down the path of diluting the matter to the point of almost no return. Also, keep in mind that the Japanese government has yet to formally apologize for the war crime, which continuously aches the families of Chinese victims who have suffered. To move forward, we must confront the painful truths of our history. I do not want to end this video in an extremely pessimistic tone. I should make it clear that obviously actual historians in Japan know for a fact that the Nanjing Massacre happened. It isn't exactly that the entirety of Japan believes this massacre to be a fabrication. As we move forward in time, newer generations improve in terms of knowledge and access to information compared to previous generations. This is important because educating others about the Nanjing Massacre, or any other massacre for that matter, is crucial for equipping future generations with the critical skills needed to respond to any propaganda or distortions of reality. One example of parts of Japan fighting this historical revisionism is the city of Nagoya. In fact, while researching for this video, I found this article article about Nagoya and the Nanjing Massacre so interesting that I will link it in the description so that you can do some further reading. Now you're probably wondering why don't I just discuss this article in full detail right now? That's mostly because I don't want you to just watch this one video and call it done. This really shouldn't be the last video you watch on the Nanjing Massacre. I don't have the final say on this matter. In fact, none of my videos have the final say on any matter. I'm not an encyclopedia, I'm just someone who wants to teach others stuff I've learned. So please, take some time to educate yourself and others more about this topic, even after this video ends. No one can fight this fight alone. But maybe, just maybe, together, we can build a more knowledgeable, compassionate, and better world. Before I go, I want to apologize for not having uploaded any videos in the last year or so. Life got in the way, and this video especially got impacted. You'll also notice that the quality might be a bit off or something, but there's not much I can do about it right now. But if the quality of this video feels weird, I do apologize for that. I hope to bring more and more better content to you soon. I have some interesting ideas that I'm cooking up that hopefully you'll see soon in a couple months that comes by. So yeah, that's all. This ending to this video is a bit weird, but I don't really care. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.